We've talked a bit in the past about solo queue and the idea of elo hell, and one frequent myth that I see brought up time and time again is how difficult, if not impossible, it is to climb the ranks while playing alone. I'm here to dispel that. But before we do, let's go over my personal competitive play experience. So back in Season 1, I placed at rank 48, and by the end of the season, I managed to climb all the way up to 64. Here in Season 2, I began in a similar spot to Season 1, this time with a new rating system, placing around 2400. And in just one afternoon of serious playing, I managed to climb my way all the way up to 2900, going up nearly 2 entire rank tiers. This puts me currently at the high end of Platinum, just a couple of victories away from Diamond, and I expect I'll hit Diamond next week, eyeing Masters after that. But forced to climb like that, surely you must have been playing with a group of people. Nope, not at all. In Season 1, I played maybe a handful of games one afternoon with a couple of friends. Beyond that, 99% of the time it was just me. And in Season 2, I have yet to group up with anybody. So, how am I climbing? What's the big secret? There is no big secret. I could give you some advice and tips based on what I've learned from my own experience and what I've heard other people talk about that seems to resonate in my own climbing in both Season 1 and now here in Season 2. So let's go ahead and jump into that. Here are some tips, 6 of them to be exact, for how to climb solo. The first tip is the one that you guys should already know. In the whole scheme of this team-based game, the only thing you have control over is yourself. So you should focus on self-improvement, improving your aim, getting better with game awareness and positioning. These things come with time and practice, and they're really the only true things you have control over in a match. If you focus on making yourself a better player and only worrying about that, not being concerned with how your teammates are playing, whether that's well or poorly, not being concerned about their picks, not being concerned about their lack of communication, but just focusing on your own improvement, on your own gameplay, that is the number one best surefire way to do better and as such climb. The second tip is to play to your strengths. And what I mean by that isn't just to play one hero that you main. Play the people that you are the most comfortable with that will still work in any given situation. For example, when I climbed the other day, I almost exclusively played Reaper, except when there was a situation where my current team composition didn't make sense to play Reaper and I needed to play the tank, I needed to pick up a healer, or just Reaper wasn't good in that position on that map or whatever. But the worst thing you can really do is play a hero that you're super uncomfortable with. Playing to your strengths, similarly to playing your best, will give you the best odds of succeeding and winning a match. The third tip is attitude. It's everything. Nothing will turn a match south faster than having a poor attitude, people tilting, and getting salty at each other. Your team is all you have while you're playing a match, so make sure that everyone's in good spirits if at all possible. If someone's playing poorly on a particular hero and you feel like they should switch, try to do so in a manner that's not dickish. Say, hey buddy, would you mind trying another hero? I think it'd be better for this current situation. Instead of, yo bro, you suck. You better switch heroes right now to this hero because you suck or you can't aim for. That is about the worst way that you could approach it. And if someone else on your team is approaching it in that manner, try to either make a joke of it, make light of the situation, or tell the person being harassed, don't worry about this guy. But you know, it would be cool if we had this hero instead. I had several games during my afternoon of playing and climbing where there were people on my team being complete dicks to each other. And me stepping in to try to defuse the situation actually legitimately helped turn it around and resulted in us winning games, or at least not losing. Had a couple of ties that afternoon. So attitude, having a positive attitude and trying to keep your team in good spirits is gonna go a long way. And tip number 4 to go along with that is simply to communicate. You don't need to say everything like, hey, I'm reloading, I'm gonna go pick up a health pack, you know, but call out things that are important. If you see an enemy flanker behind enemy lines that's probably about to harass your healer, tell your team. If there's an enemy player who's at really low health, your team might not know. Make them aware. Tracer's low, 1 shot left. Communicate and call things out as you see them that seem pertinent and important to your team. Having an open line of communication is a lot better than a silent game where everyone's playing their own game, they're in their own head, and they're doing their own thing. Try to make some cohesion with that group. Tip number 5 is to play fresh. And this is one I just recently started to come to terms with. This idea that I'm not going to play at peak performance for 6, 7, 8 hours straight. Not even close. I actually personally found that after 3 to 4 hours, my my gameplay, my game sense, and my aiming declines significantly. If I'm playing for any longer of a stretch than that, there's a really good chance I am not playing my best, and as a result, there's a much higher chance that we're not going to win our match. Everyone's going to have a different threshold. Again, my personal one seems to be about 3 to 4 hours, and then I need some sort of a break or just to step away for the afternoon. We can still play and enjoy Overwatch, but if your goal is just to climb, just playing all the time nonstop isn't necessarily the best way to do it, because playing all the time nonstop means that at some point in that time, you'll be playing when you're not doing that well. And this leads us into our final tip, number 6, which is know when to quit. And this isn't like a defeatist thing, like, oh, well, it's not worth it, might as well give up. It's just knowing when you're playing well and when you're not. If you're on a 2, 3, 4 game losing streak, if you are clearly able to tell that you are part of that problem and not the solution that could result in winning, then it's time to step away. Maybe get up, go for a walk, get a glass of water, have some food, do something else, come back in a little bit or come back tomorrow. Maybe just even stand up and stretch, look out the window, refocus your eyes, do anything that might get your head back in the game, or just hop in quick play for a couple of hours because there's no rank there, so who cares if you're not playing super well. These are really the 6 things that I have come to personally find are best for me and the best advice and tips that I've kind of learned along the way and been able to pick up when it comes to climbing. It's just some advice from my own personal play experience. But Force, what about leavers and bad teammates? Well, that's a great question, but here's the thing. It is statistically impossible for you to deal with more leavers or bad teammates than your opponents. Why is that? Because you are on your team, eliminating 1 out of the 6 members who could be bad or leave the game, because you're not doing either of those things, right? So yeah, you could have some bad luck and get a streak of games where you have bad teammates or people leaving. That's inevitable, but it happens to all of us solo queuers. So in the long term, as long as you are not one of those people who are playing poorly or leaving the match, the enemy time will be less fortunate more often. Now that doesn't mean that you can't have a bad season where you don't place as well as you could have because you had a string of bad luck, but in the long term, it should all even out. In fact, it will go in your favor for those reasons, because you're eliminating one of those potential leavers or bad players. With that said though, you have 0 control over how often this happens, and the only thing you can control is yourself, your skill, your attitude, and your communication with your team. Basically everything we talked about in those 6 tips. Focus on improving those things, play your best, and know when to throw in the towel for an afternoon if you start to get sloppy. These are the best things that you can do if you're hoping to climb the ranks. All right, everybody, that is going to do it for me here today as we talk about the myth of solo queue players being unable to climb. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you all have a good afternoon, and until next time, I'll see you later.